Welcome to The Gab with Sheila
and Lisa,
where you will find some fascinating guests, stimulating conversation.
Funny stories are a guarantee, and a new take on creating balance in your life.
So put down your work, push aside the stress. It's time to have fun.
This is The Gab. Claire Duncan is a long course triathlete, top of her age group, and often competing at 70.3 worlds. She's a former editor and board member for Triathlon Magazine Canada. She now runs her own PR firm and is working as an account manager for a marketing firm in the pharmaceutical sector. Young and vibrant, Claire was living her best life until it all came to a halt due to a COVID vaccine injury. Today, we are going to hear her story. Please welcome Claire.
What happens with whatever, so okay. We'll just start it.
Sounds good.
Yeah, but we're really glad that you came today. It's exciting to have you here.
Thank you.
And we're looking forward to you sharing your story because I know you recently had a scare with myocarditis. And for those people that don't know what myocarditis is, it's like a inflammation of your heart muscle.
Yes.
Yeah. So quite painful. Can appear like a heart attack. Mm-hmm. Yes. So I was just reading all the information on Ontario Health. So
yeah.
So I'd love to just find out a little bit more about you, what your sports background is, and then how this episode came to happen.
Yeah, sure. Well, I've kind of been active my whole life. I swam when I was younger. I rode crew. I've always been a very active person, and I found triathlon kind of in my, I guess, really early 20s. And I was at a point where certain sports weren't really going the way I hoped, and I found triathlon, and I was just instantly hooked. And it wasn't even just the way that movement and exercise, makes you feel. It was also just, I love the community around triathlon. So when I graduated from McGill in 2015, I got an internship at Triathlon Magazine Canada. And then after that, they hired me full time to be an editor there. And I feel like if triathlon was just a hobby before it really became just a lifestyle for me, and I can say now, I'm not the fastest athlete. I don't have any ambition of being a pro. I don't really think I have the talent to get there even, but I just love it so much. I train, I train a lot, 15 to 20 hours per week. And I have goals for myself in the sport. And more than anything, it's the training and just the sense of community that has given me such a strong purpose. So yeah, I'm just a very passionate age grouper.
Oh, well, I was excited to meet you. I was one of it was such a great thing to be brought into your swim group and get to meet you and hang out, because you've really brought a lot to my community, my existence, and our friendship. So it's perfect. Yeah.
I feel the same. Well,
and I resonate with your points about all that you've had to say about triathlon, and I'm just an age grouper, not really achieving these high level results, but I really love the community, being surrounded by very supportive, positive, like-minded people.
Yeah.
And just having that routine in my life and being surrounded, by an amazing group of people. Now, mind you, through this, we've all had to do our own share of working out at home or in our basements and what have you. But even through some of those programs and social media, just staying connected with people and, getting kudos on Zwift and that sort of thing. It's, So I really relate to that.
And the Strava community, you're always checking. Oh my God, somebody saw it. There's a comment. This is excellent. I know. it really is a very supportive place to be.
Yeah, it is. And like with COVID and everything we went through up here in Ontario, I think in retrospect, it had a really positive effect on my training. I just formed like a much closer training group, which Sheila, you're a part of, our swim squad, and just people that like locally I was able to spend more time with because we had nothing else to do. And I don't know, it just made me love it even more, if that's possible. It gave me like some hope, some light at the end of the tunnel, that races would return. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a very, between Sheila and I too, just with the cycling, you know, reduced, we had our own little social bubble, and that added some normalcy back in our lives when everything else was, you know, really so strange and not accessible. You know, to be able to get back into some of these things and on a smaller scale with, like you said, maybe the people that, you know, are extra supportive, and you know, that really helped get through part of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and we're still going through it. I'm hoping, you know, that at some point the whole world can come together, not just with COVID, but you know, our new issues that have arisen with Russia and Ukraine come together again and start creating some sense of balance and normalcy everywhere.
Yeah.
Security is nice. Yeah.
Kind of felt like after everything I've been through in the last 6 weeks, certainly it hasn't been fun. It kind of feels like a privileged problem to have when you see what's going on. So there's a part of me that doesn't even feel right talking about my struggles, but regardless, you know, I part of it for me is I want to get back to being fully healthy and being the best version of myself, so I can, you know, like make positive change in the world and do meaningful things. And that's almost been the most frustrating part of what I've been going through. But yeah.
Well, we actually were having a little bit of a conversation yesterday, just in terms of how lucky we are here, like you said, and how, you know, I said, yeah, you know, I'm complaining that out here in Niagara we're only allowed one person per lane. How awful is that? But like, it's such a small problem, and you know, your problem and what happened with you is not a small thing. And it is a big challenge, and it does affect your life greatly. So, you know, be confident in sharing this, because I think once you share your story and you talk about, you know, the symptoms and things that happen, and make people aware of what to look for and what to do, you know, you're providing a big service as well.
Yeah.
And helping others.
I think so too. And one thing I'll say is that when I first got diagnosed with this, I mean, of course, I scoured the internet and tried to find as much info as I could. And every single website said the same thing. And there's nothing that's tailored towards athletes with regard to myocarditis from the vaccine specifically, not from COVID. And so I really just felt like I was in no man's land. I even like I went on Reddit and like wrote a question like, hey, I'm a, you know, better than average, like hobby triathlete, basically. Has anyone been through something like this? And it wasn't till I started doing things like that and looking outside of the immediate resources that I began to see like, oh, there is a massive, massive, massive community of people who have heart injuries from the vaccine and are dealing with it in different ways. And actually nobody has any answers. And I seem to be someone who has really gotten lucky with regards to some aspects of it.
Well, I'd love to hear, you know, your story, and, you know, if you could maybe walk us through how this started 6 months ago, and, you know, some of those steps and treatment and where you are today.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, it's been a little over 6 months from, I guess, the start, but the real start for me was actually 6 weeks ago. And that was when I went and got the third dose, the booster that they told us we should all get. And the very next day, I kind of woke up. I did a hard workout after I got the vaccine. And then the next day I did a workout again. And yeah, my partner had also gotten the booster at the same time. And we were kind of just chatting throughout the day, like how we were feeling. And we both had flu symptoms, but I had expected that based on how poorly I had reacted to the second dose and actually the first two, but more so the second. And then it was funny because that day it was a Friday, and I had two friends come over, and one of them's a doctor. She's also a training partner of mine, and she kind of knows that my views on the vaccine, and just that I had so much hesitancy around it. And she was just assuring me, like, you know, it's fine, right? But also taking my concerns kind of seriously and saying, if you feel, you know, if you've got a bit of a flu, okay, just watch what's happening, you know, and let me know. She was really great that way to be supportive. But it had been about 28 hours, I guess, since I got the first dose, and I was now the third dose. I was now well into the second day, and very, very suddenly, like, I had extreme fatigue. I was sitting on the couch. My heart rate was 130, 140. It shot up to 210.
Oh,
and
wow.
I see that because I monitor it at all times. I started getting chest pain, and it started in the middle of my chest, and then it was like radiating out into my shoulders. And I don't like to go to the hospital or the doctor. Especially for things that I deem not serious. So I just kept thinking, I'm just going to lie down, drink water. Like, maybe part of this is a panic attack. I don't know. But I knew in my heart that things just weren't feeling right. And the pain just was getting worse and worse. And I had a really, really high fever at this point. And I always think about pain on a scale of 1 to 10. Like, my doctor friend always tells me to think of it that way. And I could honestly say the pain was at a 9 out of 10. Like, I couldn't move at all. I couldn't express myself. I was it felt like I was almost losing consciousness. I wasn't, but I just was in so much pain. I couldn't get through anything. I couldn't even explain to my family what was going on. So my partner, like we got his kids in the car, his small children who were like starting to get upset because they're seeing me in distress. And then, you know, he drives me down to the hospital. No one can go in because we've got all these protocols still. And I just waited. And I'm very fortunate that they prioritized me a lot because I was having chest pain. And since this whole thing and meeting people who have gone through similar experiences, I've had a lot of people tell me that they were not prioritized when they got to the hospital. So I am very grateful that I was. I got a really great nurse who kind of did a bunch of tests right away. And I had been there for about 6 hours, and finally I saw the emergency doctor. And the pain at this point hadn't gone away at all. In fact, it had gotten worse. And I'd been sitting in a chair, which because there was nowhere for me to lie down. And so just the sitting, I think, wasn't making it feel that good either. And the emergency doctor said to me, yeah, you've got really, really high troponin levels that are like reason for concern, very high white blood cell count. And we have to do a bunch of tests on you. So that was kind of the first part of it. And yeah, and then after that, I mean, I was honestly just waiting for a while.
So did you have the test, like, did they discharge you and it was over a period of time waiting for the tests?
No.
Some of them completed right then and there.
They did a lot of tests right then and there. They did a CT scan. They did an echo. They did, man, there were so many. And of course, at this point, like my pain is still so high and I'm getting no info. Like part of the problem with this was that no one was communicating to me what was going on. And I kept saying to the emergency doctor, like, can I just go home? Because you aren't explaining to me what the problem is. So I feel like I'm better off to just go home and sleep this off and someone else can come in and take my place, right? Because the waiting room's full of people. And then that friend who was a doctor came in because she works at that hospital and she was able to kind of get me a bit of info and kind of explain that they were quite certain I had myocarditis at that point. And yeah, like I was in the hospital for over 24 hours. I had to get admitted at one point, and this is kind of crazy to explain because I still don't know really what went on. It wasn't communicated well to me. I wasn't responding well to the medicine. So they had to give me a shot of something. And this was at 1 a.m. So I'd been at the hospital for nearly 12 hours already. And the person who administered it said to me, we have to give you a dose of this. I have to tell you that you could instantly die.
What?
From the drug?
Yeah. And I said, okay, well, can I call my family? And at this point, my dad was at the hospital. They wouldn't let him in. They wouldn't let anyone see me. And my dad's like pacing around the hospital, trying to sneak in any way he can. And I said, my dad is somewhere in the parking lot. Like, can I just call him even and just tell him, like, I just wanted my family to be aware. And they said, no, there's not time for that. We have to do it right now. And it doesn't always happen. She said to me, only a handful of people have died on the spot from this in my whole career. And so I just said, okay, like, it's a very weird thing to come to terms with the fact that you're kind of making that choice. Like I had the choice to say no, but I was being urged heavily to say yes, right? And they're reading me out my rights and I'm still in pain and having like a total panic attack because I'm not the most calm person at the best of times. And so I remember just lying there and just thinking, what's it going to feel like if I just die? Like, I don't know. And luckily I didn't die, obviously.
No,
but
obviously you're here. It's good. I'm glad you didn't die.
Yeah, I didn't respond well to it. I had broken out into hives. I was like, something was swelling in my chest. So anyways, long story short, I was fine in the end. When I was able to talk to the cardiologist, he said, yeah, you've got acute myocarditis. We are acknowledging it's from the dose, the third dose you got, but I have to ask you, have you had chest pain in the last 7 months or anything? Because you have so much inflammation showing on your heart. I just don't think that this came on like in 24 hours. It doesn't make sense. He's told me I've been treating a ton of these cases from the vaccine and none of them has had as much inflammation as you have in such a quick timeline. So the reality was I had a lot of chest pain and a lot of weird symptoms for the 7 months since my second dose. And it was stuff that I ignored and I didn't want to acknowledge and I didn't want to take time off from training. And so, yeah, I had chest pain. I felt like I was going to faint or pass out in a lot of training sessions. There was just a lot. And so when I explained all this to him in depth and he took the time to listen, he said to me, I really, really think you probably had this after the second dose.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's quite a terrifying, quite frankly, it's quite terrifying, that story. Yeah. Especially starting
all of it, but especially the part of being alone, right?
Yeah.
Being in so much pain and not having your partner or even a family member by your side to, support you and maybe even help with that decision, right? Yeah. Because when you're in that state of, you're so uncomfortable, you're scared.
Yeah.
For sure, anxiety.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
And to have your father that close and for them not allow you even to call after she just, lets you know that one of the potential adverse events is that you're not waking up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It couldn't have been an easy decision. You were very brave for that situation.
I've never I've always had kind of I think good grasp on death. It wasn't me dying that was really concerning me. It was the fact that this was going to be so very traumatic for my family, given the circumstances. Like if it's my time to go, it's my time to go. But to have just such lack of communication and frankly, like they didn't really seem all that empathetic towards what I was going through. Not that I know they're dealing with much worse stuff, but I was not given a moment to really like let my emotion out, say anything. It was like, no, now are we doing it or no? And if not, you're gone, and you're probably going to die anyways from this. So yeah.
I think that definitely would have been the time for one of the healthcare team members to demonstrate some compassion, and not rush it. And, sometimes even just holding a hand and saying, maybe explaining it a little bit better, but, human touch and connecting, and definitely recognizing that, it was a very serious situation.
Yeah.
That's very unfortunate to hear. Yeah. And again, surrounding that whole situation where you're completely on your own, right? Not that it should be excusable, even if you had support there in the way of a family member. But I think sometimes these things are forgotten, and maybe some refreshing with healthcare would be helpful in that regard.
Yeah. And I thought about it a lot afterwards, and I really have a lot of respect and admiration for the healthcare workers for everything they've had to go through with this pandemic. And I take that whole experience as simply a reflection of the strain that they're under. Like I can't imagine how hard it must have been, because I know, and I had some nurses throughout the whole process that did communicate really nicely to me and did explain things and said, and one of them even said, I can't tell you how many of these vaccine related heart things we've been treating in the last few months alone. Like I can't believe it. You're just another one. So I'm trying to just approach it from a place of understanding, and I'm here. So everything did work out. It was fine. It was just really, really shocking.
Yeah. I think it was interesting too, that like you talked about putting, your situation out there on Reddit and finding out if anybody else was communicating and are having the same issues, and communicating back to you that, they weren't getting that priority treatment that you were lucky to get when you went into Emerge. They were just ignoring that. And I don't know what you guys think, but do you think, because many of the patients that are experience this myocarditis are younger.
Yeah.
And often if you're a woman, sometimes they don't think of you as a heart attack patient or having those kind of things, right? We don't even think of ourselves, like you just mentioned yourself too, you let it, ignore it.
Yeah.
This can't be happening. I'm young. I'm fit. How am I possibly having a heart attack? It must be something else.
Yeah.
And then we don't go in. And then when you go in, the healthcare thinks the same thing, and they put you off to the side. So, I just think you sharing this story and what can you guys hear the dog?
Must be a squirrel out front
or another dog.
Yeah.
Sorry, we'll just wait a second. Or 10. But
sorry, go ahead, Sheila.
We can edit all this. It's all good.
It's not too loud on my end.
Oh, it's not? Okay,
no,
good.
It's fine. Yeah.
On my end.
I can still hear you.
This is me being at home, right? But I think you sharing your experience, the symptoms you had, and the importance it is to really push that when you get to Emerge, that there is something wrong. I think it's important for, the audience to understand that, because that could happen to anybody, whether it's a vaccine-induced myocarditis or whether it's just a heart attack, or myocarditis from, say, some sort of infection that you've had.
Yeah.
And it's important to push that when you get there, and don't let them just sit you down in the emergency room and leave you there for hours.
You definitely have to become your own advocate. And from some of my own personal experiences, and even, you know, with my children and parents, you know, you have to, and it's something I've learned through all of this, but really, to Sheila's point, you know, I think we all have to be our own advocate. And, you know, I think sometimes that could be part of it, you know, youth, and can't be that bad. Like, you don't fall into the typical, you know, age group for these sort of things. But, you know, and I'm sure going forward, you will be, you know, your biggest advocate.
Yes.
And for your family, and, you know, children in your family.
Yeah.
From this experience.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. With getting out of the hospital and everything that's come since then in the last 6 weeks, I've had to be really selfish and be my own best advocate, and kind of push for things that I know are going to make me better. And there's this part of me that doesn't want to. It just feels wrong, right? Like you don't want to be like putting yourself first all the time, but I have had to. And part of that started with the cardiologist I had in the hospital, was not going to see me for about 2 months post. and was not giving me any answers with like very, very general, anything that I could have just looked up online with regards to what the recovery process was going to look like. So I had to kind of take matters into my own hands. And thankfully, Sheila was able to get me the best cardiologist ever. He's an athlete himself and just a very compassionate, wonderful man. And he has given me just a ton of guidance on what the recovery looks like, and kind of cleared up that big black cloud for me. But originally they were kind of just going to send me on my merry way with a bunch of medication. And when I would try to explain I'm a triathlete, like he didn't know what that meant, and that part of it was like completely not given any attention. Like he just said bed rest for 6 weeks plus. And I just know in my heart, like that's not what my body needs.
No.
That's a long time to be on bed rest.
Yeah,
for sure. So when you were able to get in to see the new cardiologist, what was his take on that 6 weeks bed rest and what your recovery should look like?
Yeah, so he agreed with the bed rest for 2 weeks, but he changed my medication right away. So he took a more aggressive approach, which I did push for. Again, I wanted the most aggressive approach. I've actually never once in my life responded well to medicine or vaccines. I can honestly say that, but I felt like it was worth the risk. And so he kind of talked me through, if we go this really aggressive route with a very aggressive medicine that you'll be on 3 times a day for a week, this is what it's going to look like. And there were a lot of risks that came with that, like muscle weakness, stomach bleeding, migraines, a bunch of things were explained to me up front. Mm-hmm. And I kind of ended up getting all of those and then some, but in the end it was worth it because my recovery has been faster than a lot of people. And after 4 weeks of doing nothing, and I did some little walks in there and some yoga, I was able to get back in the pool, swim very light, and start to do things where my heart rate stayed very low, but it was movement. And that's all I could ask for.
Well, sometimes taking the risk is worth the benefit.
Yeah.
And, you know, taking that little bit, at least I know it's not really funny, but at least you didn't tell you were going to die suddenly when you took the medication.
Yeah, I know. I appreciate that. I actually did think like it was a really hard, it's been a really hard 6 weeks because I have reacted to the medicine that I've been given. I've been in the hospital again twice since getting diagnosed. I had gone back to see him, and again, the pain was at like a 9 out of 10, that like pain that you just can't do anything else. You're not even able to see or think straight. And it turns out a lot of that was actually the medication, but he's been really good about giving me, you know, different options, and also really respecting that I wanted to apply a natural healing plan to my recovery as well, and respecting that and giving a bit of guidance on that. So I got through it all. I pretty much didn't sleep for 4 weeks because like I was having stuff like the pain in my calf that would shoot up, and it's really hard to describe, but and I couldn't feel my toes and all this stuff. And it was all just side effects of the medication. But yeah, like I've done tests since then. A lot of the inflammation's gone down. It's not fully gone, but it's a lot of it has, and it was worth it for sure.
Yeah. What are some of the natural methods that you were incorporating into your recovery?
Yeah, so I mean, I've always tried to put natural healing and kind of Eastern medicine practices before Western medicine my whole life. It's just something I deeply believe in. So I see an Ayurvedic doctor. Ayurveda, which is it's an Indian medicine system, is something that really like combines plant-based herbs and ingestibles with lifestyle and physical and emotional practices that you can do as well. So I went to my Ayurvedic doctor, and he had prescribed turmeric to bring down the inflammation. He had given me a couple different options, and all of them were turmeric based, and given me kind of some daily breathing rituals that I could do that would focus on, and meditations that would focus on like bringing attention to the heart and bringing more oxygen to the heart, and more importantly, like really bringing just positive energy to the heart. Mm-hmm. And I just really do believe that our emotions and our immune system are so tightly connected. So I can't help but think that part of the reason my recovery has been going so well is because I did these extra things. So yeah, turmeric tea I've been drinking multiple times a day. That's a big one. And there's been some others as well. Dandelion is something as well. Okay. Those are the main ones.
Just to say too, like it's really great that you are communicating with both doctors, and like in terms of what you're taking and what you're on, because oftentimes those natural medications can also interact with the Western medications that you're getting and cause some bad things. And oftentimes people don't share with their physician what they're buying off, you know, in the naturals side of things, and it can cause some issues. So it's really great that both medicine professionals are working together to help you get what you need to recover.
Yeah, sure. I'm really grateful for that. Again, it seems to be something I've really lucked out with there, because I have met so many people going through what I'm going through, and actually to a much worse degree. And two of them are really trying to take this holistic healing path as well. And both of them have really kind of had Western medicine practitioners who are against it, not supporting it. So the fact that I found someone who was open to it is really great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for all areas. I mean, we know how important meditation is. We know how important, just you mentioned earlier not putting putting other people first, but
Yeah.
putting yourself first allows you to be a better person for those other people. So it's important that you take that time to put yourself first, to look after your health, exercise, take the things that you need to do, work on your mental fortitude and health, to make you an all-around better person, because just taking a pill doesn't fix everything.
It doesn't. And I think for a very long time, that's what we've been, that's what we've experienced. That's what we've been growing up knowing. When you were sick, you went to the doctor and you got an antibiotic, or, you got some sort of pill, and that's going to make you better. Yeah. I think to all your points, the mental aspect, and, it's the whole body. It's not just the one area that is struggling, or the mind, the stress and feelings, and definitely positive energy. That's a big one. And I found that over the years that I have paid more attention to that. So I can definitely see that being very important in your recovery.
Yeah. And one other thing I forgot to add. So I go to Reiki, and I was going before this, but also with the Ayurvedic doctor. I was going to treat something else before, which turns out it was a side effect of an aspect of the myocarditis that I probably had in the summer and fall of 2021 that I didn't know I had from the second dose. So I was having some things, and I had gone to him to try and treat them. And I had an appointment with him maybe a week before I got the third shot. And I had a Reiki appointment around that time too. And both the Reiki practitioner and the Ayurvedic doctor had done something that they had never done before with me. And it was, they had really been hovering, trying to read my energy around my heart, which I thought was very strange, because having gone through these sort of appointments for many years now, everyone had always told me, even if I had seen different practitioners, you've got such a strong heart, it's your strongest muscle. You have great heart health. And both of them had said to me that they were spending time there and that there was something off. And this was before the third dose. They both said it. I didn't really pay attention to it, because sometimes you don't know, right? I believe in these practices. I believe in this style of medicine, but what am I to do if they say they both individually say I feel something off? What am I to do with that?
Yeah.
Kind of just went on my way. I just think it was kind of an interesting.
Yeah. And what do you call the doctor and ask them for a referral to a cardiologist because your shoe alternative practitioner said that there's something wrong with your heart? They're going to say, no.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to say no. Yeah.
They might have you come in and they'll listen, but you're not going to be able to get all of the diagnostics that you would normally need to have to find that inflammation in your heart. So yeah, for sure. So I just, so I'm going to ask, I know this is kind of this podcast is a little bit controversial right now because it's around the vaccine and COVID. So I might as well just ask, what were your thoughts on the vaccine before, and what are your thoughts on getting the vaccine after having your myocarditis?
Yeah, I didn't want the vaccine necessarily, but I was more than happy to get it, as much as it was going to help me do my small part for getting our society back to normal, because we were told very heavily that this was a safe vaccine and that it was the answer to get us out of the lockdowns. And we began to see that that really was not the case. But even so, I was still happy to get the third dose before it even became mandated, because there was this part of thinking that, you know, I'm doing my part to be a statistic of someone who got the vaccine. And also for the people in my life who it mattered to them deeply that I had it, I'm happy to make that sacrifice as I saw it, because this was something that I didn't want or feel I needed. But if it put them at ease, especially I have a lot of people in my life that work in healthcare, I was happy to do it. Unfortunately, you know, it's been hard to kind of come to terms with the fact that I have become just another person that's been injured by it. And it doesn't really seem like our government cares about that. I have to wonder if I was having myocarditis or long COVID from actual COVID-19, if certain people in my life would be reacting differently, because this has caused tremendous strain on some of my personal relationships. And I wonder if it maybe would have been a little bit more, you know, accepted, and people could have used it towards their narrative that COVID is the evil thing here, if that makes sense. But I'm not thrilled about the whole vaccine, and I'm certainly even less thrilled at the way I've really had some very negative experiences with people, both having a different point of view and through this, just a lack of compassion shown from people who I thought were going to kind of step up and be there for me a bit more, because it's really altered. It's not just you're sick. Like, I thought I was going to have to take time off work. That there's so many, it's not just about the training. There's so much here. And unfortunately it kind of revealed some things that I didn't want to see in others.
So for some of these people that obviously were not supportive of the vaccine mandate, so they've in turn minimized what you've been going through because ultimately you chose to have the vaccine?
No, it's not that. It's more the people who were very, very pro mandates, who and pro vaccine, who are refusing to acknowledge that this is maybe not such a safe vaccine if I and so many others are getting heart injuries from it.
Okay.
And kind of not having any, I think this is something that kind of sums up my experience best. I had someone say to me, you getting myocarditis from the vaccine, it was worded differently, but this was the tone of the message was, you getting myocarditis from the vaccine is direct karma for how much you've questioned the vaccine and said negative things about the mandates.
Wow.
You know what? Like, this whole thing, this whole vaccine, no vaccine, has really caused such a rift in our society. It really has. And you know, yes, there has been lots of benefit for many people from the vaccine, but I think where, you know, our government has really let people down is not providing them with all of the information around what the potential side effects are going to be, because there is not one medication that is out there that doesn't come with a list of side effects,
right,
as long as your arm.
Yes. And
we are told that. I mean, how many American commercials do you listen to? And they have the beautiful music and the fun person playing in the background. And then they said, you know, watch out for diarrhea, vomiting, and potential death. Right? Like,
their commercials are like 20 minutes long because they have to list every single possible side effect, right?
But we didn't do that for the vaccine.
No.
And so you don't have that awareness. And so all of a sudden it's like, these people are getting myocarditis, you're not really hearing, pericarditis, you're not hearing about it in the news like you do everything else, that people aren't getting the vaccine, or it's, all the stuff is happening, but they really should have provided that information. And maybe there is a group of people who aren't going to benefit or have a higher risk of this happening. Maybe they should be given an option, because on the Health Ontario site, they only have data up until October 21st, before we started getting the third dose.
Yeah.
So how much increase in this particular adverse event has happened since October 21st, when the third dose was now afterwards being administered? How severe it is, what age group. We're looking at younger people like yourself, Claire, that are getting hit by this, and fit people, athletes, like that should just be given as an option.
Yeah, that's really all I wanted, was the choice, because it's not something that I would have taken if I wasn't so heavily pressured. And we were really just made to feel like such villains if we chose not to get it, right? Like, you're not only literally shunned from society because you can't go anywhere now, you're someone said to me once, and they didn't know my views. They said to me, the unvaccinated should be lined up and shot. And I just thought, there are such strong views, and people are just so black and white on this. And I just don't think it's a black and white matter. And kind of to go back to something you just said, Sheila, like, there's a lot of things that have made me just question it the whole way. And even if you question it, there's a lot of people that villainize you. And like, one simple fact, actually, there's three main things that I kind of questioned all along and lost friends over it. The first was, why have they expanded the cardiac unit at sick kids in preparation for what's to come as a result of children getting vaccinated? The second one being, our healthcare system has had major issues, and has had issues with, the ICU being at capacity or almost at capacity just from the flu for so long. And our current administration very clearly doesn't care about the healthcare system enough to make those changes, yet they're forcing this vaccine on us. And we are not to question it, and we are to get it and be happy and encourage our friends. And if we're not, then more and more restrictions are going to come out for us. And the third main one, and this is from a friend who had a heart condition prior to any vaccine coming out, and she began to get the process of an exemption. And the plain and simple fact is, most doctors refuse to give an exemption for this vaccine, regardless of the circumstances. And many major companies refuse to even acknowledge exemptions. If you do have one from a doctor, it's not being accepted. So that's really, those three things just set the alarm bells off in my head about this whole thing.
Yeah, I agree with all of those, in particular, our healthcare system. And that really set the path of this whole vaccine mandate, because we have a very fragile system, and it's been ignored for much too long. And, I will say that I don't have a lot of faith in our system. Sometimes it's like pulling teeth to advocate for yourself and get to be seen, to receive, treatment, because the whole system is about to crumble. Right? We can't accommodate Canadians in our current, in particular, hospital settings. Definitely.
Yeah.
And what I find interesting too is that when is it become okay to say you're not allowed to question things?
Yeah.
We should always be able to question, and ask and explore. And, that's how progress happens, is by questioning. We're no longer allowed to question, not even just the vaccine, but there's many other things you're not allowed to ask questions about, or
well, here's a good one from personal experience. Cancer treatment, here's what we're offering. Well, we didn't do a real full workup on pathology, and we're not offering you this medicine because we have a certain budget at the hospital. So we're going to offer you medicine C. And it wasn't until questioning and not really getting answered, and it escalated, that it came out that there were other treatment options. There was other medicine that probably should have been administered first time around. That came down to dollars.
Yeah.
Right.
Which has been
some of this as well. Right.
Yeah. We've had cuts and cuts and cuts to our healthcare system for years upon years. I mean, our wait list long before COVID started was horrendous to get in for a treatment or a test or surgery. So I think, what are we doing? We're placing blame over here, so we don't see what's actually happening here.
Yeah.
And I'm really sorry about, losing friends and things happening in that way. Even though you had questions and you had doubts, you still went and got all 3 vaccines so that you could play your part, that you could try to keep other people safe as well, and yourself, and continue to be able to function in society with the rest of with everybody, as they, the sanctions that are out there. And you still did it. You still went and did those things regardless of your questions. Yeah. And I don't think you should be, anyway, I just think it's wrong that people have said the things that they've said to you.
Yeah.
And in regards that. So I would apologize for them, but I can't.
It's okay. I've had to kind of shed certain people along the way, and I wish that they would be open-minded to my views on things the way I've been open-minded to theirs, but it's okay. Like, I've just really come to terms with the fact that I need to focus on positivity to get through this, because I'm really, really not out of the clear yet. Like, even, I'm sitting here and it's just sitting, my heart rate's getting high. Like, it's these little things. And I'm just trying to focus on positivity, and I'm trying to also just focus on, if my inner circle sees me and listens to my views and sees me day to day and can love me and accept me, like that's who I hold myself morally accountable to. It's not, I'm going to continue to post things that make people angry on Instagram, but that I find to be valuable resources. And I'm going to continue being myself. And I don't need everyone to like me for it.
No,
I just don't.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that was supposed to be great about, where we are in this free society, is that you are allowed to post your opinion. You are allowed to share that. You're, and it's becoming part now that you're not allowed to do that, and that's being taken away. And no, not everybody's opinion is going to be popular with everybody else. And that's what makes everything so good. And that's what allows the questioning. That's what allows us to become a better group of people overall.
Yeah.
So, keep posting.
Yeah. I completely agree. And I think, being authentic to yourself, and surrounding yourself with people that accept you and love you. And, I have people, I think we all have some people in our life that we don't see eye to eye on things, but we, have that mutual respect.
Yeah.
Right. We all can't live the same life, the same beliefs, right?
Yeah.
All we can do in life is try the best that we can.
Yeah.
And, follow sort of that inner compass, and if you've got a few great people in that inner circle, then really that's all you need.
I agree. Yeah.
So let's move a little lighter, bring your heart rate down. And I'm just going to ask one more question about like your training. Like, so do you have some races still planned for the future in hopes that you're like this year that you're hoping to get to, or have you cut back? Or I know you've done a couple fun things.
Yeah, I signed up for so many races this year because number one, I had so many rollover credits from Ironman events that I haven't been able to do for the past 2 years. I'm sure we all do. And then also my partner and I had signed up for a trail race series. We had found trail running last year and just really loved it. The Happy Trails racing series in 5 Peaks. It was just something for us to do that, it's movement, it's being in nature, it's with a fun community. And it kind of took some of like the seriousness and pressure away from, for me anyways, triathlon, because I do have a lot of pressure on myself. So I had a lot planned. The only one I really, really want to be able to do is 70.3 Worlds in St. George in October, because I worked really hard to get there and I want to do it. And I love St. George. I think it's like beautiful. It's a challenging course. But I'm kind of taking things like week by week. And if I'm able to do some of these like smaller trail races in a few months, I think a few months is probably when I can reevaluate. I will do every race that I can. And even like 2 weekends ago, we did a snowshoe. We didn't do the snowshoe race. They had a 4K like trail running one as well. And so Mitch just did it with me. Like we pretty much walked the whole thing because my heart rate can't go above 120. And it was just fun to be out there. Like I've redefined kind of my expectations of myself, and I don't need to be competitive. I just need to be having fun and supporting a small organization putting on these races. So yeah, that's kind of going to be my approach this year, and hopefully race Worlds. If not, that's okay. I'll just see how it goes.
Yeah. Well, I like that new take on moving forward and what your new goals are, right? Sometimes we have to readjust what our goals are. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay. So we're coming close to the end of the hour.
Okay.
So just have a couple questions.
Okay.
So we're going to ask you, if you were getting close to the end of a race and would you stop at the porta potty if you needed to, or would you crap your pants to get to the finish line?
I would crap my pants to get to the finish line, and I have. and I would do it again.
Yeah.
I have no shame. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Lisa, do you have one? My question.
Okay, here's one. Not triathlon related, but you're on a deserted island. You have food and water, so that's taken care of. You can have 2 items or things or whatever with you. What would those 2 things be?
I mean, it sounds like kind of cheesy and cliche given like the theme of this podcast, but honestly, like a pair of running shoes for sure. And I think just like an empty notebook to write in, and just kind of I think there's a lot of value in that, and I could find many hours of entertainment with both of those items.
That's awesome.
That sounds great.
It is good.
Better than running along the beach and on a deserted island.
Yeah.
Leaving all the troubles somewhere else. Yeah.
Which I'm dreaming about lately, I have to say. I'm just throwing that out there. Usually I'm always planning active holidays, hiking, that sort of thing. But I don't know about you too, but lately it's just been, I just want to go to a beach. I just want the sun.
I'm ready for the tundra to disappear. Yeah. Let's get rid of the snow for a while. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Claire. And we're looking forward to following your journey and recovery for sure.
Yeah, it'd be great to check in with you in a couple more months. And we hope that you continue to have great progress in your recovery. And I'm going to send lots of positive energy your way. And I hope that St. George happens for you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. It's really sweet. Thanks for letting me, chat about this. And hopefully someone, takes something from it and has a little bit more info than they did before if they're going through the same thing or something similar.
Thanks. Definitely. You've shared a lot of great things with us today. And I think this will be helpful to others out there.
Yep.
Thanks.
All right. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
This show and episode was brought to you by Ocean Junction, the sponsor of the Ocean Junction Podcast Network. Make sure to check it out on Spotify and YouTube.